Imagine spending a wheat penny that could be worth a fortune. One famous Lincoln cent sold for $1.7 million, so before you skip yours, look closer. Your next penny could shock you. The 1916 South Lincoln Center is not just another old wheat penny. It is the kind of coin that can sit quietly in a box, a jar, or a worn album page for years while nobody realizes they are looking at a piece collectors take very seriously. And that is exactly what makes this first coin in your 5-coin video so dangerous to ignore. At first glance, the 1916S looks humble. Small. Brown. Old. Easy to underestimate. But the moment you slow down and really study it, the story changes. This is not one of those modern pennies people pull from change every day. This is an early San Francisco issue from the Wheat Cent series, and that alone makes it far more interesting than most people expect. On the front, you will see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with "In God We Trust" above, "Liberty" on the left, and the date 1916 on the right. Just below the date is the small but critical mint mark, S for San Francisco. That tiny letter is one of the first things you need to check, because on this coin it changes everything. On the reverse, you get the classic wheat ears framing, 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum at the top. It looks simple, but collectors know this design well, and even small differences in strike, color, wear, or damage can matter a lot. Now let's separate the truth from the hype. A normal 1916 South Lincoln Center is not automatically worth $116,000 to $278,900. PCGS lists the 1916S as a semi-key date with a mintage of 22,510,000, official weight of 3.11 grams, diameter of 19.00 millimeters, plain edge, and bronze composition of 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc. PCGS also shows public auction records around $27,600 for a top red example and $2,880 for a brown example in high grade. So numbers like $116,000 or more would only make sense for something truly extraordinary, such as an elite condition rarity, a major and desirable error, or another highly unusual authenticated piece. But that does not make the coin boring. Quite the opposite. The real suspense of the 1916S comes from the fact that it already starts from a stronger collector position than common date wheat cents. That means if your coin also shows something extra, a strong strike, unusual surfaces, a possible repunched mint mark, a meaningful die issue, or a wrong planchet type of anomaly, the conversation changes very quickly. So where do you start? Start with the S mint mark. This is the first zone that deserves real attention. Use a loupe and good side lighting. Look closely at the shape of the S. Does it look normal, clean, and centered? Or does it seem to show extra metal, a second outline, or a strange shape around it? On older coins, a repunched mint mark or mint mark abnormality can become a serious point of interest. But be careful, dirt, corrosion, and damage can fake this look. What you want is something raised and integrated into the coin, not a random scratch or hit. Next, move to the date 1916. Check the 1s, the 9, and especially the 6. Look for notching, extra lines, or a second shape that follows the digits. A real double die look should appear raised and part of the design. Flat, shelf-like spreading usually points to strike distortion or damage, not a premium variety. Then inspect Lincoln's portrait. Look at the cheek, jawline, beard, coat, and hair. Search for raised lines, die cracks, chips, or strange lumps. Remember the rule, a die crack is raised, while a scratch cuts into the surface. Older coins like this often have decades of wear, so you have to separate mint-made features from everything that happened after the coin left the press. Now turn the coin over. The reverse may look simple, but the wheat ears and lettering can reveal a lot. Check 1 cent, United States of America, and E pluribus unum for weakness, doubling, or missing detail. Then study the wheat stalks for distortions, breaks, or signs of die damage. Also pay close attention to the overall centering and rim. If part of the design is shifted and a blank crescent appears on one side, you could be looking at an off-center strike. If the rim looks unusually broad or distorted, a collar issue may have occurred. On a coin like the 1916s, a strong, dramatic mint error can matter much more than on an ordinary common date. And now we reach one of the most important checks of all: weight. A genuine 1916s should weigh about 3.11 grams. That matters because this is an early bronze wheat cent, not a modern zinc cent. If your coin weighs clearly more or less than standard, do not ignore that. A big difference could point to damage, metal loss, a wrong planchet, or another significant issue. But weight alone proves nothing. You must compare it with color, diameter, thickness, and strike quality. Color matters too. PCGS separates brown, and red examples, and top red coins are much scarcer and more valuable than dark, worn pieces. So if your 1916s still shows unusually strong original color, that alone makes it worth closer inspection. And one more rule: never clean it. Do not polish it. Do not rub it. Do not try to brighten it up. Cleaning can destroy originality and reduce collector value fast, especially on a semi-key date coin like this. If you think you may have a serious 1916s, hold it by the edge, take clear photos, record the exact weight, and keep it safe in a non-PVC holder. The 1916 South Lincoln Center opens this 5-coin video exactly the right way, not with noise, but with tension. Because this is the type of penny that does not need to scream to be important. It only needs the right date, the right mint mark, the right surfaces, and the right person to notice before it is dismissed as just another old cent. And the second coin in this video gets even trickier, because its most important clue may be hiding in a place many people never think to compare carefully. The second coin in this video is the 1948 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this one is dangerous in a very different way. Not because it screams rarity. Not because it looks dramatic at first glance. But because it can sit quietly in a collection for years while people assume it is just another old wheat cent. That is exactly how valuable coins get missed. At first, the 1948 penny feels familiar. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with "In God We Trust" above, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1948 on the right. On the reverse, you get the classic wheat ears, 1 cent, and United States of America. It looks like the kind of penny many collectors think they already understand. But that confidence is where mistakes begin. Because once you stop treating the 1948 wheat penny like a routine coin and start examining it like a suspect, the entire story changes. Now here is the truth first: a normal 1948 Lincoln cent is not automatically worth $57,000 to $128,000 plus. PCGS lists the regular 1948 Philadelphia issue with a mintage of 317,570,000, an official weight of 3.11 grams, a 19.00 millimeters diameter, plain edge, and the classic 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc composition. PCGS also shows a public auction record of about $10,350 for a top red example. So those much bigger numbers would only make sense for something truly extraordinary, a major error, a spectacular condition rarity, or another highly unusual authenticated piece. And that is why this coin becomes interesting. Because once a coin already has age, collector demand, and wheat penny appeal, any serious extra feature can change the conversation quickly. So where do you begin? Start with the date. Look closely at the 1, the 9, the 4, and especially the 8. Use magnification and strong side lighting. You are looking for notching, doubling, strange shaping, or signs that the date is not as normal as it first appears. A true doubled appearance should look raised and part of the original strike. Flat, shelf-like spread is usually not the kind of variety collectors chase. Then move to Liberty and In God We Trust. These areas can reveal doubling, weakness, or die fatigue. If certain letters look oddly incomplete while the rest of the coin remains sharp, that could point to a struck-through issue or debris in the die. But if the whole coin is worn evenly, then it is likely just circulation wear. Next, inspect Lincoln's portrait. Look at the cheek, jawline, beard, coat, and hair. Search for raised lines, die cracks, or small lumps of extra metal. A real die crack will be raised because metal flowed into a crack in the die. A scratch, by contrast, cuts into the coin and sinks below the surface. That difference matters a lot, because many people mistake ordinary damage for rare mint-made features. Now turn the coin over. The reverse of a wheat penny is simple, but simplicity can be deceptive. Check the lettering in 1 cent and United States of America. Then inspect both wheat ears carefully. Look for distortion, missing detail, doubling, or signs that part of the design was not struck normally. And now comes one of the most important checks of all, weight. A genuine 1948 Lincoln cent should weigh about 3.11 grams. That matters because this is a bronze wheat penny, not a later zinc cent. If your coin weighs clearly more or less than standard, you need to pay attention immediately. A wrong weight could point to damage, metal loss, a wrong planchet, or another serious anomaly. But weight alone proves nothing. You must compare the weight with the coin's color, thickness, diameter, and overall look. Color matters too. On wheat pennies, collectors care about whether a coin is brown, or red. Strong original red color in an older coin can make a huge difference. A dark, worn coin tells one story. A sharply struck, brighter, better preserved piece tells another. And here is one more thing many people overlook. Never clean it. Do not polish it. Do not wipe it. Do not try to make it look better. Cleaning can destroy originality and reduce the value of a promising wheat penny fast. So if you find a 1948 cent that looks unusual, handle it by the edge, photograph it clearly, record the exact weight, and store it safely. Because the 1948 Lincoln Wheat Penny is the kind of coin that punishes lazy inspection. It does not need to look flashy to be important. It just needs the right detail, the right surfaces, and the right eyes to notice it before it is dismissed as ordinary. And the next coin in this video gets even more intense, because its most important clue may be hiding in a place most people never think to compare at all. The third coin in this video is the 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this one plays a different kind of game. It does not rely on being ancient. It does not need a dramatic first impression. Instead, it works by looking harmless enough to be ignored, and that is exactly why it becomes dangerous. At first glance, the 1953 feels like the kind of wheat penny collectors see all the time. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln faces right, with "In God We Trust" above, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1953 on the right. Just below the date is the small but important D mint mark for Denver. On the reverse, you get the classic wheat ears with 1 cent and United States of America. Simple. Familiar. Easy to dismiss. And that is the trap. Because once you stop looking at this coin like a routine wheat penny and start examining it like a possible outlier, the story changes fast. Now let's ground this properly. A normal 1953 Lincoln cent is not automatically worth $39,400 to $186,000 plus. PCGS lists the 1953 with a mintage of 700,515,000, official weight of 3.11 grams, 19.00 millimeters in diameter, plain edge, and 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc composition. PCGS also records a public auction high of about $7,475 for a top red example, while brown examples are far lower. So if anyone is talking about six-figure territory, that would only make sense for a truly extraordinary piece, something like a major error, an elite condition rarity, or another highly unusual authenticated coin. But that does not make the coin boring. What makes the 1953D interesting is the combination of age, collector demand, wheat penny popularity, and the fact that high-end quality can already matter more than people expect. Heritage notes that superb full red 1953D cents are surprisingly rare in the highest grades, which tells you something important. A coin that looks common in bulk can become a completely different animal when condition and originality are exceptional. So where do you begin? Start with the D mint mark. That tiny letter can be one of the most important parts of the coin. Use good lighting and magnification. Look for extra outlines, abnormal shape, raised metal, or anything that makes the mint mark look suspicious. But be careful. Damage, corrosion, and contact marks can fake the appearance of a variety. What you want is something that looks built into the strike itself, not something scraped or flattened afterward. Then move to the date 1953. Look closely at the 1, the 9, the 5, and the 3. Search for notching, separation, doubled contours, or anything that makes the digits look wrong. A true doubled look should appear raised and consistent with the design. Flat, shelf-like spreading is usually not the premium kind of doubling collectors hope to find. Next, inspect Lincoln's portrait. Focus on the cheek, jawline, beard, coat, and hair. Search for die cracks, chips, odd lumps, or unusual lines. And remember this basic rule: a die crack is raised because metal flowed into a crack in the die, while a scratch cuts into the coin and sinks below the surface. That one detail can save you from mistaking post-mint damage for a real mint-made feature. Now turn the coin over. The reverse may look simple, but the wheat ears and lettering can reveal a lot. Check 1 cent and United States of America for weakness, doubling, or interrupted detail. Study the wheat stalks for missing grain lines, distortions, or strange raised areas that could suggest die issues. Then check the rim and centering. If the coin is off-center, has an unusual broad rim, or seems oddly shaped, that deserves serious attention. A stronger strike error on a wheat penny can shift the coin into a much more interesting category very quickly. Now we get to one of the most important tests of all: weight. A genuine 1953D should weigh about 3.11 grams. That matters because this is a bronze wheat penny, not a later zinc cent. If your coin weighs clearly more or less than standard, stop and investigate. The wrong weight could point to metal loss, damage, a wrong planchet, or another serious anomaly. But never rely on weight alone. Always compare it with the coin's color, thickness, diameter, and overall look. Color matters too. A brown coin tells one story. A red coin with original fiery surfaces tells another. Since PCGS separates brown and red examples, and the auction records differ sharply, originality and color can make a huge difference in collector interest. And one final rule: never clean it. Do not polish it. Do not wipe it. Do not try to brighten it. A cleaned wheat penny can lose the very originality that made it worth examining in the first place. So if your 1953D looks unusual, hold it by the edge, photograph it clearly, record the exact weight, and keep it safe. Because the 1953D Lincoln Wheat Penny is the kind of coin that punishes overconfidence. It looks ordinary enough to ignore, until the right detail, the right color, or the right anomaly turns it into something far more serious. And the fourth coin in this video raises the suspense even more, because its biggest clue may hide in a detail so small most people would never think to compare it twice. The fourth coin in this video is the 1950D Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this is the kind of coin that can fool people in two completely different ways. Some collectors ignore it because they think it is too common. Others overreact just because it is old. And somewhere between those two mistakes is where the real opportunity lives. At first glance, the 1950D looks like a routine wheat penny. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with "In God We Trust" above, Liberty on the left, and the date 1950 on the right. Just below the date is the small D mint mark for Denver. On the reverse, you get the familiar wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America. Nothing flashy. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that screams six-figure coin. And that is exactly why it becomes interesting. Because a coin like this does not need a loud first impression. It only needs one serious detail that most people miss. Now let's ground this the right way. A normal 1950D Lincoln cent is not automatically worth $44,000 to $162,000 plus. PCGS lists the 1950D with a mintage of 334,950,000, an official weight of 3.11 grams, diameter of 19.00 millimeters, plain edge, and a standard bronze composition of 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc. PCGS also shows a public auction record of about $20,400 for a top MS68RD example. That means the huge prices you mentioned would only make sense for something truly extraordinary, a major error, a spectacular condition rarity, or another highly unusual authenticated piece. Graysheet also notes that the 1950D is common through lower mint state levels and becomes a real conditional rarity only in the very top grades. That is where the suspense begins. Because once a coin already has collector demand in elite grades, any extra feature, a major strike anomaly, unusual surfaces, or a serious mint-made error, can push it into a very different conversation. So where should you start? Start with the D mint mark. That small letter matters more than many people realize. Under magnification, look for extra outlines, an odd shape, raised metal, or a mint mark that seems doubled or misplaced. But be careful, contact damage, corrosion, and random hits can fake that appearance. What you want is a feature that looks part of the strike itself, not something damaged later. Then move to the date 1950. Look closely at the 9, the 5, and the final 0. Search for notching, separated edges, or any sign of doubling. A true doubled feature should appear raised and natural. Flat shelf-like spread usually is not what serious collectors are hunting for. Now inspect Lincoln's portrait. Check the cheek, jawline, beard, coat, and hair. Search for die cracks, chips, or strange raised lines. This is one of the easiest places to make a mistake, because old wheat pennies often carry decades of wear and small marks. Remember the rule, a die crack is raised, but a scratch sinks into the surface. That one difference can save you from calling damage an error. Then turn the coin over. The reverse may look simple, but simple designs make small abnormalities easier to spot. Examine 1 cent, United States of America, and both wheat ears. Look for weakness, odd distortions, doubled lettering, or interruptions in the grain lines. If part of the reverse looks strangely incomplete while the rest remains sharp, that could point to a struck-through issue or debris in the die. After that, check the rim and centering. A true off-center strike, broad strike, or collar problem can make a wheat penny far more interesting. If the rim looks unusually wide, distorted, or uneven, do not ignore it. Major strike errors on Lincoln cents can become much more valuable than ordinary high-grade coins. And now comes one of the most important checks of all, weight. A genuine 1950D should weigh about 3.11 grams. That matters because this is a bronze wheat penny, not a modern zinc cent. If your coin weighs clearly more or less than standard, stop and investigate. A wrong weight could point to damage, metal loss, or a wrong planchet. But weight alone proves nothing. You need to compare it with the coin's color, thickness, diameter, and overall appearance. Color matters too. A dull brown coin tells one story. A blazing original red coin tells another. PCGS's record price for the 1950D came from a top red example, which shows how much elite preservation matters for this date. And one more rule, never clean it. Do not polish it. Do not wipe it. Do not try to brighten it. Cleaning can strip away originality and destroy the very quality that makes a wheat penny worth submitting or keeping. So if your 1950D looks unusual, hold it by the edge, photograph it clearly, record the exact weight, and store it safely. Because the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny is the kind of coin that punishes lazy inspection. It looks ordinary enough to ignore, but in the right condition, or with the right error, it can become the kind of cent that completely changes the way collectors see it. And the fifth and final coin in this video may be the most deceptive of them all, because its biggest clue could be hiding in a place most people would never think to question. The fifth and final coin in this video is the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this one closes the set in the most dangerous way possible. Not because it looks dramatic. Not because it instantly screams, rare. But because it looks just ordinary enough to be ignored, right up until the moment one small detail changes everything. That is what makes the 1951 so interesting. At first glance, it seems like a routine wheat penny from the early 1950s. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with "In God We Trust" above, Liberty on the left, and the date 1951 on the right. Just below the date is the small D mint mark for Denver. On the reverse, the familiar wheat ears frame 1 cent and United States of America. Simple design. Familiar look. Easy to underestimate. And that is exactly why collectors miss coins like this. Now let's ground this properly before the excitement takes over. A normal 1951 Lincoln cent is not automatically worth $71,000 to $108,000 plus. PCGS lists the 1951 with a mintage of 625,355,000, official weight of 3.11 grams, 19.00 millimeters in diameter, plain edge, and the standard bronze composition of 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc. PCGS shows the brown version with an auction record of about $1,380, while Coin World reported that the finest PCGS MS68 red example brought $6,600 in 2020, and Heritage shows another top-level 1951 MS68 red at $8,100. So if anyone is talking about six-figure territory, that would only make sense for a truly extraordinary error, an elite condition rarity, or another highly unusual authenticated coin. But here is where the suspense really begins. Because a coin does not need to be common in top condition to be dangerous. It only needs enough demand, enough surviving examples, and one real anomaly that most people fail to notice. So where should you start? Start with the D mint mark. That tiny letter below the date is one of the first places to inspect carefully. Use magnification and side lighting. Look for extra outlines, raised metal, or any shape that seems unusual. On older Lincoln cents, mint mark abnormalities can matter a lot. But do not confuse damage, corrosion, or contact marks with a true mint-made feature. What you want is something that looks built into the strike itself. Then move to the date 1951. Check the 9, the 5, and the final one especially carefully. Look for notching, separated edges, or raised secondary lines. A real doubled feature should look natural and part of the original design. Flat, shelf-like spreading usually points to strike distortion or mechanical effects, not the kind of variety collectors dream about. Next, inspect Lincoln's portrait. Focus on the cheek, jawline, beard, coat, and hair. Search for die cracks, die chips, or odd raised lines. This is where many people make mistakes, because older wheat pennies often carry decades of circulation marks. Remember the basic rule: a die crack is raised because metal flowed into a crack in the die, while a scratch sinks into the coin. That difference is critical. Now turn the coin over. The reverse may look simple, but that simplicity can hide important clues. Examine 1 cent, United States of America, and both wheat ears. Look for weakness, odd distortions, doubled lettering, or interrupted grain lines. If one area of the reverse looks strangely incomplete while nearby details remain strong, that could suggest a struck-through issue or debris in the die during minting. Then check the rim and centering. If the coin is off-center, has a strangely wide rim, or seems unevenly struck, do not dismiss it. A broad strike, collar problem, or stronger off-center error can push a wheat penny into a much more interesting category. And now we get to one of the most important checks of all, weight. A genuine 1951D should weigh about 3.11 grams. That matters because this is a bronze wheat penny, not a later zinc cent. If the weight is clearly off, stop and pay attention. A lower or higher weight could point to metal loss, a wrong planchet, or another serious anomaly. But weight alone proves nothing. Always compare it with the coin's color, thickness, diameter, and overall appearance. Color matters too. A dull brown example tells one story. A strong red example with original surfaces tells another. And because top red examples have already sold for thousands, the 1951D shows how much originality and preservation can matter, even before you add any error into the picture. And one final rule, never clean it. Do not wipe it. Do not polish it. Do not try to brighten it up. Cleaning can destroy originality fast, and on a wheat penny, that can erase exactly what made it worth attention in the first place. So if your 1951D looks unusual, hold it by the edge, photograph it clearly, record the exact weight, and store it safely. Because this coin closes the video with the strongest lesson of all, the most dangerous penny is not always the one that looks rare, sometimes it is the one that looks ordinary enough to slip past everyone else. Now go back and compare all 5 wheat pennies from this video. Check the date, mint mark, color, rim, strike, and most importantly, the weight. Then tell us in the comments which one you have, and subscribe, because the next old penny sitting quietly in a jar could be the one that surprises you the most.